The screen flickers to life, but the familiar library shelves are gone. Mychal Threets sits in a room stripped of color, the walls casting long, sharp shadows across his face. He holds the smartphone at arm's length, his knuckles white against the casing. He does not smile. He does not greet the camera. He stares into the lens, his eyes heavy and rimmed with a raw, persistent red. For 3 full seconds, he does not move. The only sound is the low, rhythmic hum of a fluorescent light overhead. He draws a sharp, ragged breath, his chest rising and falling against the stillness of the room. He shifts his weight, the floorboards creaking under his movement. He clears his throat, a dry sound that cuts through the silence like glass. He looks down for a heartbeat, then pulls his gaze back to the camera with a sudden, painful precision. He speaks, his voice steady, but stripped of its usual melodic rise. "I am not okay." The confession lands in the quiet space, unadorned and absolute, marking the end of the public facade. The video shifts abruptly. The screen fills with the warmth of a library, the sharp edges of the current room replaced by a blur of motion. Mychal is there, framed by dozens of children, his grin wide and reflexive. He lifts a stack of books, the covers vibrant and primary colored, and hands them out to a surging line. The audio swells with the muffled sound of applause and excited voices. He is constantly in motion, pivoting from one child to the next, leaning in close to hear their whispers. He is a blur of energy, his hands rarely still, always pointing, stacking, or gesturing. Then, the frame cuts. He is sitting on a low stool, surrounded by a mountain of picture books. He laughs, a genuine, booming sound that fills the space. He pulls a book from the pile and holds it up, his expression lit by the ambient glow of the room. The transition is violent, pulling back to the present. The silence of the stark, dimly lit room hits like a physical weight. The screen settles back on his face, the grin from the montage now replaced by a quiet, hollowed-out stillness. He stares forward, the ghost of the library noise fading into the hum of the wall clock. Mychal moves the phone slightly, revealing a duffel bag sitting on the floor by his feet. The zipper is pulled shut. He points to it with a steady finger, his hand showing no tremor. He begins to detail the logistics of his arrival. He speaks of the intake paperwork, the specific ward, and the quiet, sterile routine of the hospital hall. There is no performance in his tone. He recounts the timeline of his physical surrender, specifically the morning at the book fair. He describes sitting at the desk, the crowd of people pressing in with their requests, and the moment he could no longer keep his eyes open. He dropped his head to the wood, the noise of the event becoming a dull, distant roar he could no longer process. He admits that while he spent every day championing the stories of others, he had spent months silencing his own. The internal feedback loop of constant output had finally severed. He had ignored the silence until it became a vacuum. He looks down at his bag again, checking the strap for the second time, his movements methodical and detached, as if he is preparing for a journey he has already started. Mychal shifts his weight, the chair creaking under him in the quiet room. He leans closer to the lens, his face filling the frame. He talks about the expectation of the public figure, the assumption that those who bring light to others must be perpetually bright themselves. He speaks of the stigma that follows when the mask is set down. He mentions the thousands who watch, the expectations of constant availability, and the pressure to maintain a performative joy. He does not apologize for the shift, but he acknowledges the friction it creates. He looks away from the lens, scanning the empty space of the room before returning his gaze to the glass. He talks about the choice to prioritize his own needs over the narrative that has been built around him. His voice remains even, but his jaw sets tight. He reaches out, his fingers hovering near the screen. The recording is becoming a burden. He glances at the time on the phone, the numbers ticking upward, marking the final seconds of his public accessibility. He moves his hand to the side, preparing to hand the device over to the nurse waiting just out of view. The tension in his shoulders drops, a sign of impending release. Mychal holds the camera steady, his reflection caught in the dark glass of the lens. He does not speak further. The room is so quiet that the faint hum of the hospital ventilation becomes the only sound. He turns his head slowly to the side, scanning the sterile walls one last time. He takes a long, slow breath, his chest rising and falling in a steady, rhythmic cadence. He reaches up and pushes his glasses firmly into place. The movement is precise, deliberate, and final. He brings his focus back to the center of the frame, locking eyes with the camera one last time. His expression is neutral, stripped of the performative energy he once carried. He gives a small, shaky nod, a confirmation to himself rather than the audience. His thumb hovers over the screen, then presses down. The frame freezes for a heartbeat. Then, the image cuts to total blackness. In the silence that follows, the heavy metallic click of a door latch echoes, followed by the soft, final sound of a door swinging shut. The screen remains empty. The recording is gone,